Oh, hey
Well,
everybody.
hey guys, it's Larry. It's a Larry Carey show. It's Larry Maggot, and this is the inaugural launch of Connect Safely, the regular. I think it's going to be about 2 or 3 times a week. We're still kind of working out a few things, and Carrie Gallagher, who some of you may know, she is God known as the paperless classroom. Is that the what
Oh my
you're
gosh,
from?
that's like well, 12 years
Sometime
ago, that was
12
like
years
my
ago.
big thing that I was known for. Yeah.
But she's a tech educator extraordinaire. She's our Connect Safely's K-12 education director. She's also assistant principal for learning, if I'm getting that right, at St. John's Prep, which is a school in Danvers, Massachusetts. Veteran educator. She doesn't look like she could be a veteran educator, but she is.
You're too
And
kind to me,
I mean,
Larry.
you look like an educator. You look like a young educator. And she's also a lawyer, a mother of
Mhm.
two, which is one of the, I think actually, the biggest qualification you have. I don't want to insult your education and professional background, but the fact that you're a mom to two wonderful kids who I have met, to me, is what really qualifies you to be on these podcasts and videocasts.
Well, thank you, sir. And you certainly have that qualification as well. You've raised a couple of them.
Mine are
Yeah,
past the beta test stage. They're young
right.
adults. By
And
the
one
way,
of them is a teacher herself. And so I think we're able to kind of come at both the educator and the
right.
parenting perspective from a lot of different angles. And I think that hopefully people will find that valuable because I have both advice for parents as an educator, but also just as a parent.
And
So,
I actually going to have both of my kids on as guests at some point. My son, Will Magid, because he's an amazing musician, he had a live event the other day that had 8,000 people in it, doing really
it was
well.
awesome.
And my daughter's a kindergarten teacher, which is a completely different thing than you do, Carrie. I mean, I'm
That's
sure you
right.
could have been a great kindergarten teacher, but totally different skill set. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
well, I want to talk about some resources that are out there for people. And I just posted a column. It's in the Mercury News, but it's now on ConnectSafely.org about coping with stress, dealing with all the things that families and individuals have to deal with today. Everything from a food calculator, the Omni food calculator, which is really handy. One of the things experts are telling us is that we should only go shopping about once every 2 weeks, if we go out at all. I mean, my wife and I are mostly having food delivered, or we're driving to the store and having them put it in the trunk of our car. But if you go to a store, you should go about once every 2 weeks maximum. And this food calculator helps you plan your groceries. You put in the number of adults and kids in the family, and it will calculate what this family should need for the next 2 weeks. And by the way, there's also a toilet paper calculator to encourage preparedness but discourage hoarding.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we've definitely found that challenging. I don't think we could do once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, we
I
don't need,
don't,
we do more often.
yeah, I don't know. We've been still going nearly every day, one of us,
Mm-hmm.
my husband or myself. And one of the things I'm finding is that the fresh fruits and vegetables are very well stocked and
Mm-hmm.
are in excellent shape. So I would encourage people to don't deny yourself those fresh foods
Right.
or your children. Um, because you can, when you get home, you can wash them, you can make sure that they're safe and add them to your food. I think one of the things that I've noticed is like preserved foods and frozen foods are those parts of the grocery store have been really empty, but
Yeah.
that's not where all the nutrition lies.
Right.
And so we can buy fresh and even freeze it ourselves, or buy it and cook it and kind of preserve it. But I think the more that we can incorporate those fresh foods, I don't think we want to forget that part of
Yeah.
our nutrition.
And another thing, just to point out, I am not an expert, but I have read what experts have said. So anything that I'm going to tell you outside of my own expertise is based on stuff I've read from who believe. One of the things that comments is if you buy things like apples and oranges that last a while, as opposed to things like strawberries that don't last long, you might want to think about that. It's fine to buy things to eat in the next day or two, but it's also a good idea to have some things around that have a longer shelf life. Another
Hmm.
thing that I read is that the virus will live in a freezer for a very extended period of time. So, for example, if you bring home a frozen pizza from the grocery store, take it out of the outer package, throw the outer package away, and either store it. It usually has a plastic container that it comes in, store it that way, or put it into your own plastic bag. Basically anything that comes in a container that we can throw away, we throw away. Obviously, canned goods, we just we basically spray them with a bleach solution or a Lysol solution before we put them away. So
Yeah,
just,
we found that it's even hard to get bleach right now. We ran out of
yes.
bleach at my house, and we've
Oh,
had a hard time locating just bleach. I mean, anywhere.
yeah,
So I think that's the other thing to note is, you know, it's important for us to buy what we need, but not what we don't really need in order
right.
to make sure that everybody can get what they
I
need.
know we have a
So,
half a gallon of bleach and we're using it, the thing about the bleach solution, it's only 4 teaspoons of bleach per quart of water. So,
mhm.
but the thing, and it's interesting, the CDC just tells you that, but the EPA has a website that tells you that it loses its potency after 24 to 48 hours. So I didn't know that. And, you know, and all these things, I don't know what's true and what isn't. I mean, I know that the EPA is credible, but I don't know how much it loses its potency. But so now we're trying to make small batches of it and replenish it every day or two. So,
Yeah,
and we're
and I
living
would
and
say
learning.
like there's a lot of tips and tricks to keep track of, and I don't want our listeners or viewers to be nervous that they should feel
Yeah,
like they have to do all of these things that I think we're mentioning. I think the most
right.
important thing is whenever you are sort of touching a new surface that you haven't sanitized yourself, just remember to wash your hands, right? And
Exactly.
then you're good. So don't feel like you have to sanitize. I mean, certainly all of us have worked very hard to sanitize our homes and the surfaces in our homes because that's where we're living and staying 24/7 now. But anytime you introduce something new into your home, obviously you want to take care of that surface. Or, you know, if you put that pizza box in the freezer and you leave it there and you don't throw it away, that's okay. Just wash
Yeah.
your hands, right? Like I think we don't want to, I think, yes, it's important to stay safe. And yes, it's important to take precautions. But I wouldn't want people to feel as though it's creating undue stress or, you know, it's just kind of we should be washing our hands after we
Right.
touch new
We should.
surfaces all the time anyway, right? So just
The,
use soap and warm water.
and, you know, these are good habits because after this is over, and it will end at some point, I think we're going to get fewer colds and flus if we don't have to be quite as obsessed about it. I'm probably wash my hands 20 times a day now. And by the way, I use hand lotion because to avoid my hands drying out.
Same, yeah.
Um, and by the way, if you go to larrysworld.com, which is my personal website, you will see the second article from the top has a link to an amazing video by a doctor who talks about shopping and cleaning, and he's got very practical tips that you might want to want. Originally, he said you should wash your vegetables, like your lettuce and things, with sudsy water, but then they corrected that because suds can leave a residue which can be harmful in other ways. So, you know, even the doctors had to revise their advice after doing a little more research.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah. I mean, I think we now that we have been home for a few weeks and we have sanitized our homes, I think it's just a matter of keeping your home clean. And you
Right.
know, everyone in your home is already pretty healthy. Then I
Hopefully,
think
yeah.
right. Then I think you know, you sort of, it's more maintenance than feeling as
Yeah.
though you need to
So,
kind of do any kind of massive cleaning every single day. So
so
did you
Carrie,
hear
you and I
that?
have,
Are
you and
you
I,
hearing that background noise?
yeah, I am. Is that coming from your house?
So yeah, so I have two kids and a dog who,
Uh-oh.
like many of you at home, are right now. They were very quietly playing Legos when we started, and now they've turned to playing a little bit. So hopefully
Oh,
it's not
well.
too distracting, but I can wave them down in a minute. But I think
Yeah.
that's the other thing is that we need to be forgiving to each
Yeah,
other when we're having these
absolutely.
virtual calls, right? So I'm on virtual calls and meetings basically all day because of my job.
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of people end up with a cat in their lap or a kid stopping by and asking a question, and I think we need to be forgiving of each other in these
Oh,
moments.
absolutely. And it is actually, I personally am not bothered by it, but we do hear it. So
Yeah,
at some
yeah.
point, and by the way, Carrie and I have become, I guess, like everybody in America, quasi experts on what we've been talking about. But Carrie has been an expert on education and parenting for a long time. And I have too, by the way, just so you know, I have a doctorate in education. I don't make a big deal about it because I'm not teaching or working in a school, but certainly have that background. So let's talk a little bit for a moment, Carrie, about what I know you've been focusing on as an assistant principal, which is developing the remote learning program at your school. Now, most of our viewers, and maybe some of our viewers, are educators and can play a role in that. Others may be parents who need to be essentially consumers of that. And we know that not every school offers that. But start with a little bit of tips about if your school does offer it, and then let's talk about what happens if your school doesn't.
Yeah, sure. So if you're fortunate enough to be a parent of children whose school has been able to transition to remote learning, or in many cases, the transition, if it didn't happen already, they're in the process of
Yeah.
doing the transition and trying to figure out what that looks like and how to train their teachers while their teachers are at home, right? I think the first thing to remember is that as a parent is that a lot of the teachers are parents too, right? And
Right.
so while they're trying to get this remote learning thing off the ground, they're also caring for their own children at home and, trying to keep track of meals and all those things that we just talked about, Larry. So I think
Mhm.
the more that we can remember to be really flexible and patient with one another, that's kind of my first tip for parents.
Yeah.
And then I would say also it's really important that we give ourselves a little bit of grace as parents, and our children are going to be spending more time on screens, just built
Yes,
into
absolutely.
their day. Number one, because their school is a lot of their education is going to be online now, and number two, because if the weather like it is here, it's cold and rainy and like they can't go outside depending on what part of the country you live in.
Right. And of course, they can't play with their friends in the same way that they could in past years. I mean, in past months. We always tell kids, hang out with your friends, get offline, have personal interaction. Social media is how we socialize today. It is the only way many of us socialize beyond the people in our immediate family. So we have to take this screen time thing and maybe relax both in terms of the education part of it, but even in part of the entertainment, socialization, even exercise. My wife has been doing Zumba classes in front of the TV or in front of the computer.
Mhm.
Normally, she would just go to the gym and do something like that.
Yeah, and I think this is a really great opportunity for us as parents to teach our children about higher quality screen time. So if they're going to be
Yes.
spending more time online, let's think about what they could do that we feel good about and that we know is helpful for them. So could they, especially, if your children aren't really old enough to be on social media, how do you make sure that they're able to maintain connections with their friends? There
Yeah.
are tools that you as a parent can create accounts for your child that meets the security standards that are important to protect children who are under 13, and that will then allow them to have video chats with their friends. So I recently created a Facebook Messenger kids account for my
Hmm.
8-year-old. It's built under my Facebook account, so I can manage who exactly she has contact with, and she's not having to ask my permission now to have video chats with her friends from her ski team, her friends from school, and she feels a sense of independence, but I also know exactly who's in her contact list.
Right.
So I feel a sense of I'm happy to give her some independence and some connection to her friends so that she doesn't feel so isolated. And at the same time, I can feel safe about those security measures. Like nobody's gonna, hack into that
Right.
chat. She's not gonna have contact with someone who I'm not familiar with. And I think it's important that as hard as it is and as much work as we're doing to stay connected as adults, our children deserve those connections as well. And so there are tools out there that allow them to do that.
And just so you know, Facebook Messenger runs on both iOS and Android. And let's say you have an iOS, let's say you have an Apple device and your kid has an Android device. You can manage your child's experience from your device, whether it's the same platform or a different platform. It's free. I believe it doesn't have any advertising on the child's side, so it's ad-free.
That's
I
correct.
know there's been controversy about it, but we've been working with Facebook since before they launched it, and with every revision, and they've been working very hard to make it safer and less intrusive. And I feel good about recommending it. And speaking of it, even Zoom, you're hearing stories. We're on Zoom. By the way this podcast is working, or video cast, or webinar, whatever you want to call it. Carrie and I are using Zoom, and one of the reasons we're using Zoom is because Facebook Live doesn't allow for guests in a native way, except on phones. But I'm in front of a computer. I'm in my studio. I don't know. You can see I've got my studio microphone. And so we're using Zoom, and we're transmitting it from Zoom over to Facebook and YouTube Live. But I was saying, even Zoom, there are some issues. But at some point, you've got to have your priorities. I'm a big computer security guy. I'm a big privacy guy. And there aren't security issues as much as maybe some privacy issues. But I don't know. At this stage of the game, I pick my battles. And my battle right now is to live, communicate, be healthy, try to be stress-free as much as possible. But getting back to the education thing, Carrie, you had sent out an email earlier, and I mentioned this in my article. In the article on Connect Safely about stress, I talk about this new resource from Common Sense Media, which I think is terrific. And I wonder if
Before
you could
we
talk about that.
before we get to that though, can we go back to what you were talking about privacy and safety and these video
Sure.
chats? Because I think this is something that it's in the news right now, and it's really important to talk about to settle people's nerves, especially parents,
Yeah.
because a lot of educators are using Zoom to
Right.
connect live with their classes. And so based on just the news reports over the past couple of days, and then this morning it kind of really blew up in the news,
Yeah.
in particular, even though it's been sort of in the background for a while. what's really important to note is that Zoom is a secure platform if the person who's hosting the Zoom meeting or Zoom webinar has put the correct settings in place. So
Right.
each time that we're hearing about these privacy concerns where there has been some kind of hack or some information shared or something done on the whiteboard feature of the screen with Zoom, it's because the person who created the meeting didn't enable or disable certain security settings when they put it in place. So I think if you have any concerns about your child participating in a Zoom meeting with a teacher, it would be really easy for you to just email that teacher and say, hey, I've seen this in the news. I know that there are some security settings that can be put in place to prevent this from happening. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware
Right.
and that, because, none of us want our children to experience that. But the Zoom itself as a company, it's not a company that has security problems. It's user error, and that's okay because a lot of people are trying new things right now, and so errors are allowed. But
Yeah.
but there are safeguards in place, and I think the
I'm glad
same
you're
is
pointing that out.
true with
Thank you.
Facebook Messenger. Like kids, it is made for kids, and there are some really fun features and games that kids can play with each other that are really interactive and safe and designed for children that age. So I want to sort of make sure that parents are aware of the risks, but also know that there are things that you can actively do to prevent this from happening to your children.
But before we go on, if anybody's watching either on Zoom or Facebook, there are ways to communicate with us. On Zoom, there's a way I believe you can wave or raise your hand. And on Facebook Live, you can make a comment. And Maureen Kochan, our COO, is our director and producer, and she's monitoring those channels and will interrupt if we feel, if anybody wants to make a comment or join us. But thanks a lot, Carrie, for bringing up that whole issue about how we do have control over privacy and security. Often that's the case. I mean, that doesn't mean that there can't be hacks and data breaches and things of that nature, but learning how to control that is so important.
Yeah.
If I can get back to my question, we were talking about the
Yeah.
Common Sense
Sorry.
Media
Yes.
tool. No, it's good. I'm glad you brought that up. So,
Oh, you wanted me to talk about it?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you don't mind, yeah.
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah. So Common Sense Media has created this platform that's full of open source educational material, which in education we call these OERs, open educational resources. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to do a screen share so that I can show
absolutely.
people what this
Sure,
looks
that's
like.
perfect. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Let me just navigate over to it while I get to my screen share. I actually can't screen share because of some of the security settings that we've put in
Well,
place.
I can screen share if you tell me. I can try anyway. If you tell me where to go, so to speak.
Well, I
Um,
think so. While people are listening and we're navigating,
oh, I
the
don't.
website you want to go to is wideopenschool.org. So it's wideopenschool.org. And when you get there, you will see that it asks you if you're a teacher or a family. So you would click on We're a Family, and then there's absolutely no login required, which makes this a perfect resource for families with small children because you're not having to share any PII or personally identifiable information with Common Sense Media. And they're just so privacy aware that they knew that that was something they had to put in place. And then once you click on that, you can choose whether your child is K through 5 or 6 through 12. And then it allows you to choose virtual field trips or videos about science or lessons or, even kitchen experiments,
Mhm.
lots of really great things that you can do with your kids, that some of which do require the screen and some of which will be activities that you can do together that are sort of non-screen or non-digital.
By the way, I see Maureen had for a moment there put up the URL. Maybe Maureen, you could bring that back up for people at the bottom of your screen. Excuse me for looking away. I have another screen over here. I was checking to see what everything going okay.
That's
And I want.
okay. I think on Facebook Live, they can only see the one of us who's talking. So while
Oh,
I'm
is that right?
talking, you're
Oh,
off the hook. Yeah.
good. Maybe I'm okay. But I'm glad you mentioned about forgiveness in terms of, well, forgiveness as a general thing, but even network television, even like ABC, CBS, NBC, you're going to see people broadcasting from home and you're going to hear them talking over each other. And we are making do in this situation. And I'm actually very proud about how many people are successfully finding ways to get their work done, whether they're on national television or they're a teacher or they're using Zoom for a meeting. My wife's a human relations commissioner for the city. She's getting doing a lot of things. I'm very sad for the fact that there are millions of our fellow country people who are not able to work online. If you're in the service business, if you're an installer, if you're work in a restaurant, you know, you can't do your craft online, and many people have been laid off. Unemployment rates are skyrocketing. So I do hope people are okay financially, and I'm sure there are some among us who are struggling. So
yeah, and my husband is an installer and a technician, but
mhm.
his industry is considered essential. So he's still going to work every day. And I know a lot of families are in the same position that I'm in, where there is a working parent at home with children, and then there is another working parent outside of the home. And so it could day to day, I think some days we do great and other days we don't do great. And it's okay to not just be patient and flexible with one another, but with ourselves, right? If
Right.
it wasn't a great day, number one, it could be that it's only 2 o'clock and the day isn't over, right? The day isn't lost.
Yeah.
Or if it wasn't a great day overall, then it's okay to let it go a little bit. So we have a question though from
Oh,
our
good.
Facebook audience.
Yeah.
So I can pose it to you and then we can chat together. So the viewer is asking, have we used Netflix for viewing parties, which is a feature that Netflix conveniently released right as all of this was happening. And so a viewing party with Netflix allows you to watch the same movie from different places or
Hmm.
homes. And so they're asking what the experience is like, or are there other ways to allow, especially teens, to do something, together?
Yes. Well, I have not personally done a viewing party on Netflix, but have you, Carrie?
I haven't yet. I've been tagging my brother and sister and trying to convince them to do it so that our
Well,
children, who are all cousins, can do it together.
if
So
anybody has done that, please raise your hand and chime in, and we'll get you on screen to talk about it. But there's a couple of things you can do. One of the things that we did the other day with my family is we played a game, or actually a bunch of games, and my daughter bought a very inexpensive package of games from called jackpotgames.com. And by the way, Jackpot is making some of their games free. So you can go to jackpotgames.com and actually play at least one or two free games. And the way she did it was very clever. She ran it on her PC or her Mac, and then she shared it via Zoom. So she did a Zoom meeting for all of us and did a screen share. And so even if you want to watch something, it's not on Netflix, you could actually theoretically at least have a screen share and share that experience with other people. There may be some legal copyright issues that I'm not sure about.
I
So
was just going to say we have to be careful with
yeah,
copyright, but
yeah,
I think as long as it's not something that you're broadcasting publicly online and you're sharing it really
right.
privately within an encrypted message, I think that might be okay. But essentially what Netflix does is it makes it so you don't even need to do that. You
Yeah,
can
no,
use
it's
the
great. Yeah.
Netflix platform itself, right, to have that experience together. And so I think that's a really great example. Do you know of other examples that teens can use to get together? And while you're chatting, I'm going to step away for a quick second because of my kids. I'll be right
Yeah,
back.
oh, that's good. Good. And by the way, if you see me scratching my nose, I have very carefully, many times today, washed my hands. So I'm not worried about touching my face in my house. When I'm out and about, I actually keep my hands in my pocket. I'm not out and about much, but if I'm going for a walk, even on a walk, I try to keep my hands in my pocket to avoid touching my face. Yeah, back to Carrie's question. I have not used any other sharing tools, but I know they're out there. I've seen them in some of the things, and anything we can do to kind of create camaraderie and interaction is great. I mentioned my family we have a game night. We did it on Monday night every week now. And when I say my family, I have a daughter who's married who lives about 10 minutes from here. And I have a son who has a partner, and he and his partner live in Oakland, which is across the bay. And ironically, the six of us, is it six? Yeah, six of us are
Yep.
actually spending more time together now than we typically do, because it's such a hassle, especially where my son lives. He lives like an hour away. We rarely, not rarely, but maybe once a month we'd get together. Now we get together at least once or twice a week. And interestingly enough, even though I miss the personal interactions, I find the focus and the intensity of having a hangout or a Zoom meeting to be pretty good. I mean, in fact, in some ways for me, I have a bit of an ADD. I tend to wander off and think about different things. As I'm sitting here focused on the screen, I think that my conversation with Carrie may actually be better. I know this sounds weird than when we get together in person, because Carrie, let's face it, our phones are buzzing. There's things going around us. We're focused right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I am now that I just calmed
Well,
my
yeah,
children
no,
down who were screaming in the
well,
background.
that's understandable.
But to be honest, they were just playing and having a really good time. So
Which
it's
is
so
what they
hard to
should be
tell
doing.
them, right? And being good and getting along. Um, The other thing that we've been doing in our family is actually having meals together. So we
Yes,
have been using, you can use your phone and prop it up and use FaceTime, or, you know, Google Hangouts, or, you know, whatever video chat platform is your preferred one. And we even have arranged to have the same thing for dinner with the people that we're getting together with. So they cook theirs, we cook ours. And so we're actually cooking together too. And
that's
then we're
great.
sitting together and eating together. And it does take a little bit of timing and planning to make sure that everything's kind of done at the same time, but it's been kind of fun to make those arrangements. So, and that's definitely something that teens could do too. Like, even if they're doing some remote learning from their
Yeah,
school, we have heard from our students at my school that they're having lunch with their friends every day, that they're
that's
making,
great.
and those are the friends that they were having lunch with on campus before. And they're doing that through Google Hangouts Meet,
Yeah.
or FaceTime, because you can do FaceTime on groups now. And it sort of depends on whatever your
So I live in a
platform
religiously
is.
blended family. My family, I come from a Jewish tradition. My wife comes from a Christian tradition. On Sunday, we're having our annual family Passover Seder, which we always have, and we always have it at our house. And typically about 10 to 20 people, about 20 people come from the family. And we have a Haggadah that I actually edited myself. And so it's a digital document. What we've done this time is the Haggadah, by the way, is the traditional booklet that you read from out loud. Everybody reads a portion of the Haggadah, and it's a ritual that Jews around the world have done for centuries. So what I've done is I've emailed a PDF of the Haggadah to everybody in the family, and on Sunday we will all join together in a Zoom video conference similar to this one, except for ours will be a live meeting, so everybody will always be on screen, and each person will read their portion of the Haggadah like we normally do. Hopefully, all the people will have the same traditional foods. You have matzo ball soup and gefilte fish, and which may or may not mean anything to some people in the audience. But my point is that we're going to try to keep that ritual alive. And then the following Sunday will be Easter, and we will have our Easter dinner again virtually, and hopefully everyone will be enjoying a similar Easter feast.
Yeah, my school it's a Catholic school where I work, but it's right in our mission statement. One of the first words is inclusive. And so we
Yeah.
really try to celebrate all the different faith traditions of the families who are part of our community. So we have a virtual Seder scheduled for next Tuesday, which I know is
Great.
not the actual day,
It's
but
okay.
we want to make sure it's during the week so that we're not interfering with families' weekends, but allow our community to do what we've always done and celebrate all the different ways that people believe and identify, and so we can come together. So I think that's important to note, that things that we have always done don't have to stop. We're just doing them in a different way, but we can still be connecting with the same people. So I just got word that our screen sharing has been enabled. So I'd love to show a couple of
Great,
resources
please.
for
Yeah.
parents that can help if your school is not doing remote learning. Here are some really great resources that I've already had success with my own children. And these resources are designed to serve children from preschool through 12th grade. So even if your children are older, some of these you'll definitely want to take a look at. So I am going to share my screen. There we go. So you can
Oh, it
see
is.
this is, yeah, so you can see this is Wide Open School, which is something that was created by Common Sense Media. And, oh, hang on one second. There we go. And you can, if you're an educator and you're looking for resources that your students can use, you can click on I'm an educator, but for now I'm gonna demo the We're a Family. And you see, you can click on pre-K through 5 or 6 through 12. So if I just clicked on 6 through 12, now I can choose what's the area that I want to look into. And I've been letting my children choose what they like, but as a parent, you can go in and look ahead of time and really direct your children based on what you think they need and do something with them. So there's even Get Moving. So this is a great example of how digital media can actually allow us to make sure that we're still getting exercise. So this is lessons on how to do the correct push-up and do different types of push-ups. So who knows, your children can end up going back to school when everything's back in session all buff and muscly, right? Because they actually engage with digital media. Rock, paper, scissors stretches, how to do a plank properly. I really like the virtual field trips. So I'm gonna click on that option. This morning, my children really enjoyed exploring the Grand Canyon, and they went into the um, some of the animal live cams at the San Diego Zoo to see what the animals are doing right now. And they ended up watching a bunch of videos about baby animals and how they grow up and how they socialize and interact. And that led to a great conversation in my house this morning in between my other virtual calls that I had to do for work. So, so that's a really great one. wideopenschool.org, again, is what it's called. I have a couple of others I'd love to share too,
Sure.
Larry. So Audible I'm a huge fan of audiobooks from Audible. I have a paid subscription, but Audible has created something called Stories, and it's stories.audible.com. And you literally, and it's for children, just click this start listening button. And these are all of the books that they've made available for
free. And they're all free? Great.
Without a sign-in. So again, we're protecting children's data privacy. Your children can click on the story and listen to it. There's some really great ones, and they're also sorted by elementary, tween, teen, and literary classics if you'd like. And notice there's even littlest listeners. So for those of you who have children who are even younger than school age, this is a way for you to listen to a story with your child together. My children have been loving this. They're listening to the books that they get to choose. And then sometimes they're telling each other about the books and sort of swapping. So this is just such a gift from Audible, because Audible's paid content is just fantastic.
And this works on a phone, I presume, as well.
It does, yeah, but most children don't have phones. So, but yes, just go to the browser, stories.audible.com. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these books are appropriate for adults as well. I mean, a couple that I might want to read.
I mean, these are the literary classics. There's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Hall of the Wild, I just read it. It's a great book.
Atlas Shrugged is such a good book. Jane Eyre. So this is a really great opportunity for us as adults to sort of not reread, but I guess listen to the stories that we read when we were younger, that the Jungle Book, that we forgot how much we loved them, or maybe we'll love them in a new way, given our new adult perspective.
Right.
The Scarlet Letter,
thanks for
Jane
sharing
Austen.
that.
And then the final one I wanted to share is Scholastic. Here we go. Has created this website called Scholastic Learn at Home, and it can be accessed by typing in classroommagazines.scholastic.com. And then you'll just click on Learn at Home. And once again, you choose the grade level. So pre-K, grades 1 and 2, 3 through 5, grades 6 through 9. And there it is chock full of lesson ideas and even live events. So today there is a virtual book fest from 3 to 5 where there are guest presenters there who your kids can watch. So Kelly Yang is talking about story starters and how to get your kids to start their own stories and really get the story going so that they're maybe authoring their own stories in books. There's a costume party, there's doggy trivia, and then there's a dance party at the end from 3 to 5. Right. So that's something you can tune into. But then there's also opportunities to like listen for whales near New York City, travel to places with different climates. So lots of really great opportunities for learning here that Scholastic has made available.
So Carrie, if you would, after we're off the air, send me all these links. I will add them to, so if you go to ConnectSafely.org, you'll see an article that I wrote about stress, coping with stress. I will add these resources to that article. So great. Anybody can go, get them at ConnectSafely.org.
Yeah, these are just things that I think overall, we educators are getting bombarded with free resources from a lot of different companies. And these three have sort of, for me as a parent, they've risen to the top as things that I'm really referring my children to so that they're, they're able to engage on their Chromebooks and have some fun, but I feel good about the content.
And I'm glad you raised that because ironically, I'm finding myself, and I suspect families as well, overwhelmed with opportunities to engage more so than in a normal day, much more so. And so part of what we have to do, it's not so much around screen time, it's just making good choices because there's so many options. So anytime you have an expert like Carrie who you can really rely on, it's good to get that advice simply because it enables you to focus on some of the high quality materials among the gazillion other things that are out there. And speaking of that, a couple other things, I know a lot of people out here probably have Netflix and Amazon Prime Video and maybe Hulu, maybe Disney Plus, maybe Apple TV. And those are all great, but of course, as you know, they cost money. Although for families, I think Disney Plus is a really good value. I believe it's like $5 or $6 a month, and you get a lot of great content. But there are also free services. If you can find your library card, go to your library's website, look for their digital content, and chances are they have something like, they might have Hoopla, they might have Canopy, and these give you, depending on the service, regular ebooks, audiobooks, music, videos, including major Hollywood movies, especially older movies. I mean, Canopy has some great older movies that I've been enjoying, watching black and white movies. And so these are great resources that you can find. And by the way, I see Maureen is adding some resources to the bottom of our screen. So thanks, Maureen, for
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, and the reason those 3 resources that I just shared are my favorite right now is that some companies are offering their platforms or their content for free right now in a temporary way.
Yeah,
But in order for you to access them, you have to create an account, which
yeah,
tells me that later down the line, they're going to try to either, you know, convince you to purchase a subscription or get you into a contract, which they're a business. They need to do that for
right.
sure. But these 3 resources, you can rest
Open.
assured that they're open, which means that you don't have to create an account. Nobody's collecting your data. This is a way for you to access already vetted content for your children in a way that guarantees that you're not going to be hooked into a subscription that you didn't realize you were signing up for or
Yeah.
anything like that.
By the way, a tip, I have made the mistake of signing up for a trial subscription where they do ask for your credit card, and then trying it and then sort of forgetting about it and then finding I'm getting billed for it later on. So what I do now is, let's say it's a 14-day trial, I will put on my calendar 12 days out to consider whether to cancel the subscription.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
Yeah, because I've otherwise I'm going to just get these bills forever. So, and
Yeah,
I bet
yeah.
you they count on that too. That's one of
Right,
it's a
right.
revenue source. So,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
any other thoughts? I don't want to keep people too long. It's been about 35 minutes, which is, I think, a good amount of time. This podcast, by the way, or I don't know what to call it, this broadcast, video cast, will be living for on Facebook Live as an archive. So if you want to go back or have friends watch it, please encourage them to do so. Any last thoughts, Carrie? And by the way, we will be doing this again. We're going to be doing it on a regular basis. I'm thinking 2 or 3 times a week. We're still kind of working this out. This was our maiden voyage. Thank you so much, Carrie, for being willing to be the very first guest, co-host, comrade, colleague, whatever you want to call it. We're really kind of worked very closely together. But we're going to get some people from industry, from Facebook, from TikTok. My son, Will Maggott, who's a musician, is going to come on at some point and do a little concert for us. My daughter, I'm hoping I can get her to talk about kindergarten issues. But beyond that, we're getting professionals, health people. We're going to have a really great series coming up. So always check at ConnectSafely.org/live for updates, and we will see you soon. Carrie, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say, wash your hands. Don't get crazy. Just be yourself and be around your people, whether it's virtually or in your home. Yeah, there you go.
Use hand lotion too.
Yeah, use hand lotion to take care of your skin.
Yeah.
And, if you have other resources that you think are great and are open, there are so many out there. These are my 3 favorite that we shared, but just remember that we're all in this together, even though we're apart. And the best way that we can take care of ourselves is to stay home and, forgive yourself for the imperfections, because they're happening for all of us, including me.
Human.
Live during this broadcast, I had to go get my children to quiet down.
And speaking of imperfections, I can't even click out of our event because I've got hand lotion all over my hands. How do you do that? Keep rubbing it in. Thanks so much, Carrie. Thank you all. And we hope to see you again next week for another one of the Connect Safely Live broadcasts. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.